Afternoon, David.
Afternoon, David.
How are we today?
Here's to you. I just saw everybody complaining that the plastic mug that I was using for the King's Theatre. I just thought I'd bring this upstairs, bad boy. I like to keep my whistle wet, as they say. Right. We're live.
Right, that's Facebook sorted out. So let's have a look and see who's on the day. Right, we've got Alexander Thompson, Stevie Bankier, Beanie McIntosh, Rebecca McDougall, you.
Robert Bruce.
Hi, Don. Say hello to your dad for us.
Mr. Ian Martin. Ian, forgive me, I can never figure. Is it Ian Matthewson? I should pronounce that properly. I do apologise. Nancy McIver, Francis McGrath, Stuart Laird, Doja 37, and there's SITV Tam. Hello, SITV Tam. How you doing, my wee pal?
Facebookers on. Melanie McCann, Neil McDonald.
Hi Neil, how you doing? Avril, your feet dried out. Yeah, we've got to stop. That's a running joke. That is, Avril.
June Guthrie. Let's look. What else we got here? Rick Milligan, Lenny, Rosie,
Captain. Now look, guys, if there's any of you new to what we do, then please, if you like what we do, press the like button and subscribe. We need more subscribers to the channel because there are channels that they don't get as watched as much as ours, and they've got massively more subscribers. Don't know how they do it, but anyway, there you go.
Anyway, let's have a look. Desiree's back. Class Action's back. Yep. John's back. And we've got a few trolls back today and all. Anyway, this is the two Davies on the 19th to the 10th, 2023, and we're up over the 100 mark, David, which is normally our starting point. Okay. So, yes, we'll start on the First Minister's closing speech at the SNP conference. What did you make it?
Yeah, it was a good speech because it contained actual real things in it, right? We've been listening to Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak and all the rest of it, and it's just rhetoric, whereas Humza actually said things that matter in his speech. And we can go into that individually, and I'll let you do that, David. Okay. So it's worth doing, worth going over it.
Well, this is a cracker. The first one, the first big announcement he made, and this is a cracker because it hit the BBC for 6, and then they were still trying to tell the lie at the end of it, right? So the unions had all been shouting about, and especially Sarwar lying about the SNP going to stick council tax up by 22% in the higher bands. And what's the First Minister announce? Council tax freeze. He says the Scottish Government will always do for the Scottish people, and the biggest thing on their minds at the moment is this cost of living crisis. So we're not going to make it worse, we're going to make it easier. We're going to freeze the council tax for next year.
David, today on BBC, the Scottish News on BBC, it was Cosler pulling up the Humza and the SNP for not letting them in on the secret. The thing is though, Cosler could have told everybody, look, this is bugger all to do with the SNP. This is a negotiation that we have, right? And it's like Cosler could have taken all the blooming flack and all the rest of it off the SNP dead easy. And they didn't. They didn't open their traps. And now they're complaining when they get blooming shut out the blooming decision making. Bloody hell.
Yes, thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Stephen.
Now, of course, the BBC reports on his speech that night. Yeah. And they have to say, the First Minister announced a council tax freeze, but the SNP were previously proposing a 22% rise in the higher band. No, they weren't. It was a flat-out lie. The other thing the BBC did was they said the SNP put independence above the cost of living crisis. No, they didn't. He explicitly stated in his speech that he linked the two. The only way out of this cost of living crisis was independence. Right? As you say, Kozlov threw their dummies out the pram because they didn't been consulted on it before he said it.
Seriously, tough. It's a big, hard world out there. And Kozlov, you did that to yourselves. Okay.
Anyway, he also announces 100 million more for the NHS to clear waiting lists. That was going to be welcome because the waiting list problem because of the pandemic has been pretty shocking, but they are getting through it quite quick actually.
Yeah.
If you look at the stats are good.
Yeah, the stats are good. People have learned to be hyper efficient. The people in the NHS. The times that I've used them over the last few months, my goodness me, they're amazing people, and it's like they deserve everything we can give them. Seriously.
Anyway, who do you think is on to have a boot at the Westminster government or the state of Aberdeen?
Yeah.
The energy capital of Europe, and in places like a dog end. The 10 billion's out and put nothing in. Even the city deal, the Scottish government's put its share in, but the UK government's not put its in. Anyway, so Boomser announces an extra 400,000 for the Aberdeen Council to regenerate Union Street, which used to be a big shop street up there, but now it's just bookies and charity shops, the usual for high streets these days.
Yeah, you look at it and it's poor. I mean, you go into Glasgow. Okay, Glasgow has suffered through that virus that we had previously, right? Careful not to say it. And you see that Argyle Street has been affected and Suckhill Street's been affected. But Aberdeen have just lost the direction. It's not a guy.
Keep voting for Labour and Tory councillors at daft gets, or else they end up with a Labour Tory coalition keeping out the SNP councillors have voted for, but to be fair, I mean, the city of Aberdeen should be like Dubai or London.
Yeah, should be an amazing city. I mean, I was involved in the bus station that went up. I did all the security and the cameras and all the rest of it for the bus station. The stuff I was putting in was like hard edge, real cutting edge stuff, right? It was wonderful. And even the building itself, because it was Aberdeen, it was getting built with a granite surface of it, which is massively expensive, right? But the same.
We're not allowed to mention that particular virus or YouTube pulled out your video as false information. But you're right, it is right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right after the announcement, thanks, Dylan. Boomser is the only one talking sense. You're absolutely right when it comes to the top politicians in the UK, and we'll get a wee bit more of that when we get to the Gaza thing.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Dylan. Now, he then goes on to announce investment of 500 million over 5 years in the renewable energy sector, and that's also about the just transition. Where he's talking about creating jobs and creating a highly skilled workforce.
And in actual fact, I've been talking about this for since the last referendum, is that the transition to renewables is going to take an awful lot to do, because the skill set that we have in oil fields, on the oil rigs, is the same kind of skill set.
They're going to need more offshore wind, that's right.
Wind, right? And offshore tidal as well, right? So, but it's getting the people to a point where they can actually use, it's a skills jump between one and the other. And it's actually getting people attracted to go in that direction. And what they need is actually for somebody to be able to say to them, look, guys and girls, this is the future. That's the past. This is the future.
And you're in Aberdeen. I hope Nigel and his good lady and your sister, are enjoying Aberdeen. You're right, Mr. E. Aberdeen does have one of the biggest rich poor divides. Right, let's move on.
Yeah.
a fund to be set up, an annual fund of 500,000 for people fleeing domestic violence, make it easier for women and men. No much mention of men here, but it does happen to men sometimes where they've got to escape these sort of relationships. Anyway, that 500,000 fund annually will be to give women or with children that fleeing abusive situations £1,000 to help them get started up again and get their life back on track. Right. Increased investment in arts and culture. We are an extra 100 million quid for the next 5 years. Which, David, you and I have spoken about the importance of art and culture. It's actually the art and culture is who we are as a people.
Yeah, it's the soul of a nation. The art and culture and all the rest of it, that's the soul of a nation.
If anybody describe our values.
Yes, that's right.
And one thing we do know is our values are definitely no the values of the pamphlets down that road.
That's why old idiots like me go to blooming art galleries to see people exhibiting things. And our pal, Wee Scribbles, he's just amazing.
Aye.
Right? And he does more for our culture with what he brings out, the individual drawings he does and points he makes and all the rest of it. He's a wonderful character. You should all go and have a look at Wee Scribbles' website.
Aye, he's brilliant, Wee Scribbles. And a good friend, David. That also helps.
He's a good pal. I used to have a good laugh at him going to blooming rallies and all the rest. He'd be dressed up in a gorilla suit and things like that.
I have a Margaret Thatcher. I'm a big Terence Christie. What a pair. Great campaigners, of course, David. We've campaigned with some really great people down through the years. And
there's Tom online.
Aye.
He's amazing.
We campaigned hard with these people down through the years. And I guess dare say on this next push in the general election, we'll campaign hard with them again. Because there's only one bus and either they go on it or they don't.
That's right. Absolutely.
Anyway, he also called out the UK's racist immigration system and says an independent Scotland will have a fair immigration system based on people's needs and the needs of our economy.
Yep.
Which is very important because at this point in time, the UK immigration system is strangling our economy. The end of freedom of movement is strangling our economy.
Yeah.
Right. He also pledged that if the SNP were in power, they would lead we'll get to debate in a minute, Derek. He pledged that the SNP, after independence, if they were still in charge, would take us into Europe. The biggest fear is that after independence, they start voting for Labour again. Labour align themselves with what's going on in England, and basically independence has meant nothing.
As far as I'm concerned, any party that has been a part of the London Westminster thing, where that's where they're set up, and don't forget, nowadays we call it what it is, English Labour, right? So it's English Labour. They should not have a right to speak in our legislature after independence because they're a party of a foreign country. Simply as that. So as far as I'm concerned, that's one of the very, very first bits of legislation that needs to go through when we're independent, is that any party that has been part of the Westminster thing as located there, they should not be allowed to speak in the Scottish legislature.
Good point, David. Now, of course, the most important thing he said was at the end, and that's where he showed the ambition for independence. And he's been praised by Professor Murphy on this one. And that is, whom's that? Is going to start issuing Scottish bonds.
Yes.
Now, it is limited.
Yeah, but when I heard that, that's when I stood up and applauded the TV. I thought it was wonderful. I really, really did. That's grown-up country stuff. When you're starting to talk about issuing Scottish bonds, that's wonderful.
I had a good point. The Labour's new MP down that road. The SNP had a motion to have a employment law transferred to Scotland. Rather going in Hamilton West, your new Labour MP abstained. That was that same Labour MP that was, that's that same Labour candidate that was on your doorstep saying that Labour would always stand up for your workers' rights. Anyway, so he's going to go to the bonds market. The minimum bond you can put out there is 200 million. It means that Scotland can basically float 10 bonds. Yeah. But you know what? With Scotland's resources and things like that, I just say, fuck the Treasury. I'm going to issue as much bonds as I want.
Correct.
And it will bring in investment. But Richard Murphy, the tax expert and economist, when he was praising Holmes over this, he also gave him a warning and says, invest the money well, because you've got to make a return to pay the interest on the bond. And he was recommending renewable energy and social housing. Yep. Social housing is a stick-on for great returns. Yep. Because it's an income for 30 odd years, which means that the income will outstrip the 10-year bond you're issuing, or the 20-year bond you're issuing. Because I don't think the Scottish Parliament will be able to issue for any longer than that anyway. No well in a devolved situation, you know.
Yeah.
But as I say, he's been praised for the bold move. It will bring money into the Scottish economy. And as we know, David, when you build a bit of infrastructure, all that's happened is you have turned cash into a different form of equity. You know, it's like you say, you win £1 million, what are you going to buy a big house, but you haven't spent any money.
That's right.
You know, because the house is still worth the money you paid for it.
That's in actual fact, I've business partners down the road in England. It was them that brought that up. They said, Dave, what are you going to... You win £1 million tomorrow, what are you going to spend? I'd buy a big house. We haven't spent it. You still got it, you know.
Right, so that was the First Minister closing speech at the SNP conference. Now, the conference had 5 big motions: Scottish citizenship, immigration, route to independence, workers' rights, and can't remember what the other one was now. But it was quite a successful conference. It got very little coverage, of course.
And at the very end of his speech, he said something which was rather nice, and I really, really loved it. Thanks, John. Thank you very much. If there's no union, there will be no unionist party.
Right.
Spot on. Yeah, but Hamza, at the very end, he said, here we'll have one of the oldest countries on the planet becoming one of the youngest nations on the planet. And I thought that was quite deep. That was quite nice.
Right,
you know.
As I say, I thought his speech was fantastic. Nicola Sturgeon praised him an opera.
Look, the guy isn't a fantastic orator. I would never label him with that. However, what he's got is, he's got a lovely smile for a bloke, right? And he's the real article. He's bloody genuine, right? So the oratorship will come with time. Bloody hell, look at me. I'm on a blooming YouTube channel. I couldn't speak before I came out here, but there you go. It was his fault. So anyway, good one, Hamza. Great speech.
It's a washout up there in Aberdeen, is it, Anne? Yeah, well, just the way it goes. And if you're wondering where Anna is on the chat there, David, at YouTube, it's the Curry House, because David and Anne have a YouTube channel where they do cookery programs. Right, anyway, let's move on to Richard Murphy. Debate night. Now, debate night would be the usual stuff. You know, would have Labour try to tan the SNP on housing? The SNP would have missed the open goals and things like that, because they tend to be a wee bit overly polite, the SNP. I'd like them to be a wee bit more robust, actually. But what I want to pull your attention to on that particular debate night was Mr. Murphy, Richard Murphy's contribution. Just what do you might call it? I'll share it and play it with her.
You know, the thing, this is the thing that made my jaw hit the blooming table. Bloody hell. was amazing what he said. It really was. It was wonderful.
Right, wait a minute. That suit is no bright one. Right, here we go. Peter, let us know if you can hear it. You should be able to hear it. No, you can't hear it.
Time talking about the pro-independence because...
Yeah, back at the beginning, folks.
Look, it's an improvement on spending your whole time talking about the process of obtaining independence because, let's be realistic, independence isn't going to happen yet. Because Labour and the Tories are united in their desire to retain Scotland as a colony. And the same as they're united in their desire to keep Wales under London's control. And bluntly, because Keir Starmer has said it, even though it's contrary to the Northern Ireland Agreement, the Belfast Agreement, he's determined that there'll be no poll in Northern Ireland either, even though it's provided for in the Belfast Agreement. So there is no desire in London to give a democratic choice to Scotland. But the point about this strategy, which I like, is it's going to force the SNP to actually change their strategy and talk about why Scotland can survive as an independent country. That is why I got involved in Scottish politics. I'm not Scottish. You know, I live in East Anglia, and actually I've got an Irish passport. So why, you might say, why am I here? Because my experience in Europe is that Scotland is a mid-sized European country that is more than capable of standing on its own 2 feet, making its own decisions, raising its own funds, could have a vastly better tax system, could be a fairer country. And it's that the SNP has got to talk about now, including the rubbish devolution settlement, which doesn't let it deliver the policies you want. In fact, constrains well-being in Scotland. That's what the SNP needs to be talking about. Okay. When they win that argument, they might win the argument for independence as well. Okay. Look,
I love the reaction of the guy on the BBC guy going,
when he came away with the colony statement, but because that's the truth of it.
Yeah. That's the truth, of course that is.
You know,
yes,
that's the truth of it. And
the most important thing is that'll be available on BBC iPlayer if you have got access to it. What I think I'm going to do
is don't have access to BBC iPlayer. We promote telling them not to pay their bloody licence fee.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get that wee bit of video from, because I pay my license so that I can access all these BBC things, so I can put them up on my timeline. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get that wee clip and put it up on my timeline. I'm going to share it about. All right. So there you go, guys.
Anyway, the BBC went into shock when he mentioned the colony thing. By the end of it, when he was talking about devolution being a crap settlement, you've seen them getting into a panic. Okay, stop telling the Scottish people this stuff. You know, exactly. See them starting to get into a panic. So
this is what we really, guys. This is the nub of it, right? Here we've got a wee guy, professor, right? Now he's like, you know what, professor and all the rest of it. So fair enough, give him his due, right? And he's trying to tell the people of Scotland, look, guys, this is the way it is. You lot should be doing that every day of the week. You should be talking to your workmates, your neighbours, your friends, all the rest of it, right? And you, anytime you're
we'll get to these days.
Scotland should come up as part of your blooming standard thing. And if people give it the old blooming down with the shutters, if you do, just say, don't bother. Listen and learn. All right. So there you go.
Anyway, as I say, the BBC didn't have to take fright there. And Helen, we'll get to the day's date. I can assure you we will. Because I've been taking some pelters about the day's date, but Davies got a wee thing or two to say. You know what happens when Davy takes pelters? He fucking bites back.
Oh dear, somebody's taking the elastic band off his willy. Right, okay.
Not enough of that stuff. Anyway, let's move on. Right. Hey, now David, you and I were reporting a couple of weeks ago on our show about a report out that said 2025 Scottish prisons might make capacity, and but it just so happens right now that a Conservative-led Dougie Ross's mob, Conservative-led England is starting to release prisoners early, including violent offenders, because they have overdone capacity by almost 25%. The prison service is in meltdown in England.
Yeah, does that mean that they're going to melt down before Scotland does?
So they're actually having to release offenders down there early, and that includes some violent offenders, and let them out on the street, because England's run out of prison capacity. And
David, this is the thing. It's like, what they do is, this is becoming a pattern. A few weeks before they know their side is going to fall apart, they have a go at us. The newspapers, the broadcasters, and all the rest of it, they have a go at Scotland, and then a couple of weeks later, theirs falls apart. With the same with the drug thing, if I remember correctly, they were saying, "Oh, Scotland's the drug capital of the universe," right? And then a couple of weeks later, we had the situation where it was all falling apart in England as well.
But as I say, the interesting thing about it was a couple of weeks ago when we were reporting on this report, Dross and Sarwar were having a pop in the Scottish Parliament with the same report. And what did we find out? 2 weeks later, we find out that England's actually releasing prisoners, a directive fee, Suella Braverman, to the prison service, rather than invest in the prison service, just let the prisoners out. Yeah, well, let's not bother investing in prison services. Let's just let the prisoners out. And apparently, a couple of their jails are a wee bit might have problem with that and all. So what they're going to do here? Release the whole bloody prison population, because they're not going to be able to move them.
But the thing is, though, they are releasing some rather dangerous people.
Yes.
You know, so at least in Scotland, it's like if we do something, it's people that have been involved in lesser crimes, and maybe we can tag them and say to them, stay at home for a wee while. You know what I mean? Things like that. But we're talking about releasing dangerous prisoners here in England, taking that we are a part of the same landmass. I don't like that, you know. So
Rosie, you're right. Windsor Castle and Buckhouse would make broad jails. I'd much rather see them give them but no, that's a cracker. But as I say, a couple of weeks after Dross is having a pop on if Daily Blases and thanks for the mention on your show, mate. And David and I would know the truth about police numbers. Police numbers in Scotland tend to fluctuate year on year, but they're generally around about 1,700. And what happens is that you'll get these idiots in the Scottish Parliament pull up the fact that numbers are down because a few people have retired, a few people have retired of sickness and retired of natural age. And it takes a wee while for the kids in the academy to come through. So you do get a gap sometimes. You know, you get an overlap. But numbers are steady. I think we've got 30 police officers per 100,000 here in Scotland. I think it's 25 per 10,000 in England and Wales. Police funding here in Scotland has went up by 1.45 billion, but because the Scottish Government year on year has to throw 80 million into the pot to cover that out the capital funding.
That's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. The VAT isn't being charged to any of the forces down in England, and yet it's charged to the Scottish police.
That's because they say it's a single service. There's no police. It's not just police. It's fire brigade and ambulance, because they've all been integrated into single services, right? But here's a shocker. If I remember right, PSNI, Police Service Northern Ireland, is one organisation as well.
Yeah, and also they tried to say that because it was that, right, and because of the size of it, then they have to charge back. That was one of the arguments. And yet the argument put back was, well, the Met's bigger than the Scottish Police Force.
You'll have to argue with that one. Here in Scotland, we've built 3 prisons so far.
Yeah.
We'll get a new Peterhead, we'll get a new Cottonville, and we'll get a new one over at the new youth offenders place just outside Kirkintilloch in Glasgow, Poland. All brand new prisons. So, anyway, so that's it. You know, once again, Dross makes an absolute arse of himself in the Scottish Parliament.
David, I hate to tell you, but behind you, you've got a red flashing light, and we're all wondering what it is. You know, hang on a second. You cut the red wire. You know, I look behind you. Underneath you, noticed it.
It's a candle.
No, the actual unit below it. It's got a red flashing light there. There you go. There it is.
Yeah.
Don't look behind you. You see it?
It's a mouse.
It's a mouse. There's a mouse loose about this. Right, anyway.
Right, so that covers prisons in England. They're letting out offenders because they've got no capacity left. They can't put anybody into remand, nothing.
Yeah.
Right, so
maybe they're going to put them into the hotels that they're evacuating the people from there to the prison ship.
We could also you could always stick them in a baby Stockholm, couldn't they?
Yeah.
In fact, if I remember right, when we were discussing this, Anne Widdecombe was on GBB's telling us how she had hired in prison ships. Yeah, that was 100 years ago, and we're not anymore.
I think she's old enough to remember. Anyway.
Right, let's move on. It appears that a triple lock in pensions isn't safe at all.
Well.
Jeremy Hunt to overhaul triple lock on pensions as he scrabbles for money to give tax breaks at autumn statement. Now, as we know, the Tories are in trouble, and they have internal. They've got thanks, Davies. They have got internal problems with.
Thanks, David.
With the fact that the party wants tax rates brought down. They want tax giveaways for the rich.
Yeah, which is important to tell people. If you are on your pension, if you're in Scotland and you're properly on your pension, you are going to get the once a year amount of, I think it's £300 that are given to people of that age to cover for heating. Okay, so that is something that you can look forward to. I got my letter the other day there because I'm no longer a trainee crumbly. I've now time served and ready to crumble at any time. Anyway, there you go.
Anyway, what he's going to do now? How is he going to manage to convince people it's still a triple lock? Well, hold on to get this super chat up. Professor Murphy's YouTube channel has some excellent videos on Scotland and independence. Love to the family. Aye, same to you, Colin. No, it's no way Scottish. It was Phil. Thanks, Phil. Very generous of you. Now, where was I? Aye, what he's going to do is, with a triple lock, it's either by interest, by inflation, or whatever wage rises are going up by whatever's the highest, right?
Yep.
But what it's going to look like is because inflation was at 11% last year and they had to fucking choke the dog and pay it. But they're not going to. That's not what's going to happen this time. What he's going to do is he's going to cap it at 3% or something like that.
Yeah.
You know he is because he's scrabbling to find billions to give tax cuts to the rich who vote Tory. So that's what's happening. So, folks, if you were expecting 6.9% rise in your pension at the autumn statement, because inflation hasn't come down anymore, it's stuck. It's stuck at 6.9 at the moment. That's 2 months in a row it's been stuck at 6.9. Although I'm looking at food price inflation,
it still means that the prices of everything are still creeping up. It's not going the opposite direction. It's just still just going up, maybe slightly slower. That's all. But remember, inflation is personal to every single person that's here, that's collected here now. Your buying choices will decide the amount of inflation that you get hit with.
That's true.
Okay.
The other thing, class action saying, when that autumn statement comes, when we hear about tax breaks, be prepared for a general election. I still think it takes a couple of months for the tax breaks to filter through into people's pockets, so I still reckon it'll be May. Others are betting on October next year.
We know that they're going to give some kind of tax giveaway before the Tories go to think. However, I'm still convinced they want a war, because that would be the simple way to get them back in again.
Aye. Now, they've got one, haven't they? We'll get to that.
Yep.
Right, and there was another one there. Pensioners are expendable, and a couple of the viewers, Robert T. Bruce and Eddie, have only got 20 and 14 months respectively until they retire.
Well, there you go.
Bunch of old crusties in this bloody channel.
Most important thing is, do not give up. Don't even think about giving up. Don't even think about relaxing. You've all got a job to do. The mere fact that you become pensioners means that you've got time in your hands that you can put into campaigning for an independent Scotland even more intensely than you have in the past.
Oh, there's something that doesn't happen very often. It has happened in the last 10 years, but not very often. Quentin and I agree with each other. May for the GE. Yeah, Quentin, that'll be the first time in about 5 years you and I have agreed with each other. We're about to fall out again. Anyway, let's get to number 5, because this one's really important, David. You know how pissed off I'm about this one. Today is the 19th of October 2023, and this is the date that Nicola said we would be having this referendum, before the Supreme Court pointed out to everybody that actually the Scotland Act, we're only talking about the UK Constitution being reserved, because in 1953 they'd already discovered there was 2 constitutional arrangements through Cooper versus Lord Advocate. We then found out that actually the Scotland Act specifically reserves the Scottish Constitution to Westminster. So I've been getting pelters a day after Alpha supporters and non-SNP voters, and to be fair, a lot of people who are, not really pleased with the situation. And I'm going to repeat the same challenge I've been repeating now for the last year. If you fuckers have got any better ideas on how we go about this, put them on the table. Because I see Mr. Salmons in the paper today telling us that, I read the article today, telling us that the SNP have failed yesers. What was interesting about that? Mr. Salmons, the one that signed the waiver rights with Section 30 order, he ratified the 1919 Scotland Act. But more importantly, he hasn't put a fucking alternative on the table. No, all the way through that piss-poor article written by him, and I could not find a bloody alternative from the man. And the great challenge goes out to every bloody one of you who are bemoaning the fact we are where we are. A better idea. Put it on the table.
It's easy to criticise anything. It's much harder to come up with a way forward. Now, David and I might not be in perfect agreement with what was decided by conference last week.
No.
Or last weekend. But we're Democrats, and that is the way forward that's been agreed.
And there's still a bloody bus, and we wrote it, and you're either on it or you're off it. But if you're off it, we're losing.
Yeah, that's right. Can I just before we go on, take a breath, and I think it's worth taking a breath here, right? May the 6th, which tends to be a date that falls into the general election sort of thing, okay, would be a Monday. And I can't see them running an election on a Monday.
No, the Thursday then that week, so.
The Thursday, which would either be the 7th or the 9th.
That'd be nice.
And we actually have a 2 Davies taking place on that day. So there you go. All right.
But as I say, David, as you know me, I was, like when something comes up that you and I don't agree with in the party, I tend to go to source, right? Yeah. And so I've been and spoke to a few people. Thanks to others, I've been and spoke to a few people, and apparently this is this particular last step, trying to declare a Westminster election, is the final tick in the box that says that our democracy is actually being denied. Yeah. And that then should clear the route for the international community to recognise the plebiscite election in 2026. Although That's its scheduled date. As we know, the power over elections sits in Holyrood. Scottish elections sit in Holyrood. So after they say no, you put together your constitutional convention. I've no idea why, but you put it together. And apparently constitutional convention of MPs, MSPs, religious leaders and trade unions, all at the table. And then you had the Scottish election, and every box should have been ticked in for the international community to be able to recognise the outcome. Because apparently the Westminster election would be the next logical thing, is apparently we do have representation in that parliament down that road. Well, if the representation goes forward and says we want to dissolve its union, and they say no, then we don't have representation in the parliament down that road.
However,
you hear them use the word plebiscite, because they'll tell you it's not going to be. They're going to take it as a sell. Well, the Scottish people, they're going to go to Westminster and say, right, let's start negotiating. Westminster's going to tell me to fuck off. That's the last democratic route available to them except for the Scottish election. That's all the boxes ticked. That's what I'm being told.
So therefore, why don't we just go for Plan B and turn it into Plan A? But anyway, I'm just.
David, you obviously missed the last show. David and I don't think it was forceful enough, but we Democrats will follow the path that's laid before us. The party voted for it. So if you missed the last one, jump on the last one, Nathan, if you want to know what Dave and I think about the SNP strategy going forward. Okay, I'm not going to reiterate it right now. But as I say, when it comes to people jumping on and criticising and putting the boot in the way Mr. Salmon has again today, and the way I've been getting it in my timeline and things like that, get us into your head, folks. And get it into your head. The intention was to hold a referendum today. The UK Supreme Court blocked it. Telling us that the 1998 Scotland Act was specifically designed because of the 1953 outcome with Cooper versus the Lord Advocate, where it was discovered there are two constitutional rights.
Cormac versus
the Lord Advocate. Cooper was
the thing is, though, I even saw a post by, of all things, Wings Over Scotland, where he was actually marking, it was a wee calendar, and he was saying 3 sleeps, and that was like at the beginning of the week, when he was putting 3 sleeps until the 19th. I can't wait, right? And what I did was I wrote back, is that with 3 sleepy cuddles?
I don't even want to get in that road, David. Right, anyway, let's move on. Ex-UK diplomat arrested on return to Scotland over support for Hamas and the people of Palestine. Craig Murray arrested after attending pro-Palestinian protest in Iceland. Now, I don't know. I mean, Craig's obviously no learned.
He's I have to say he's a silly man.
And that's because case, yes, because we've had the edicts coming out to number 10 and then into the Home Office saying that if you show any form of support for Hamas, a terrorist organisation, you could be subject to arrest. Well, he tweeted a couple of times pro-Hamas tweets. Yeah. So when he landed, they nicked him. Now, for somebody that used to be a diplomat, you'd think he'd know better.
Yeah, you would think he would, but he doesn't, obviously. He's more interested in getting the headline out than he is of thinking about what he's saying. And he could have just said, look, I condemn what Hamas has done, like the rest of us. But I also condemn what the IDF and the Israeli government are doing. But he didn't do that. Silly, silly man. Dear, dear.
I see Daily Blasé joined us. Thanks for the plug, as I said earlier on your show, David, Daily. But I would also like to tell you, I don't know if you're here when I explained the script with policing here in Scotland, because you were saying, you put the wee sign up in your wee post saying, somebody would know about policing in Scotland. Well, I was explaining, I don't know if you were here at the time, that numbers fluctuate, but they're generally about 1,700. And was it 17,000? I think it would go again. 1,700. And capital fundings went up, and the investment in Push Scotland has went up. The big problem we face is last year's budget wasn't inflation proof. And of course, the Scottish force has to pay VAT. They're the only force in the whole United Kingdom to pay VAT.
Yeah, if they could just claim the VAT back, that would be a massive help towards the budget. Of course it would. You know.
Apparently we've got 183 watching on YouTube, and we've got 241 in total watching, so it's not a bad live audience.
Yep.
Right, so we'll move on to Mr. Murray being silly, because there have been warnings for Westminster. Show support for Hamas and we're going to nick you.
Yeah.
You know, right way or wrong way, that's what they said. Wrong way, of course, it is.
Yeah. We should still have free speech, right? And that's taking away somebody's free speech. But Craig really shouldn't be doing that. He's just going to end up in jail again. Something like that, you know.
And you were angry seeing Gary Hassan respond to the BBC tweet about the colony. Listen, there's different ways of colonising a place. It doesn't necessarily always be violent. Scotland is a colony. Make no mistake about it. Yeah. We are exploited for our resources. And that includes our people.
And according to one politician who voiced it, that the people being called Scottish turns you into a second-class citizen. And we reported on that last week as well, or Monday, sorry, we reported on that.
I've seen that between Piers Morgan and Julian.
I saw that too. The chap basically was taking the piss with him. He was taking the piss with Piers Morgan, you know. So
right, well,
Piers Morgan,
we move on to a wee bit of comedy, David.
Yes, I wrote a post called "It's All Gone Peak Tong," which is regarding being made up to a democracy advisor for a right-wing group that is chaired by the ex-Prime Minister of Canada. I can think of many people that might be suitable as a democracy advisor. However, a right-wing group just appointed Johnson to carry that title. We definitely live in a broken world, don't we? Yesterday, I watched the United Nations vote. I looked around at those front benches and saw China as the only real adult in the room. China is the last setup that you'd call adult, but there you are. I mean, Boris Johnson, you can, on my timeline, you can read it. It's written by the London Economic, and it says, bewildered reactions as Johnson is appointed as a democracy advisor. If you don't get the joke, then please understand that making somebody like Johnson a democracy advisor isn't to advise people on how to build a better democracy. It's how to actually shoot a democracy away from people's feet. Simple as that.
Right, so let's we're going to go a wee bit deeper in here. Okay, so Bose was appointed to the IDU, International Democratic Union, and it's a right-wing think tank, and it's to promote a right-of-centre policy and democracy around the world. But of course, as we know, Bojo specialised in torpedoing democracy, illegally prorogued Parliament.
Yeah.
He introduced the new elections bill, which means that ID, which is going to cut a lot of people out of the right to have a democratic vote.
Yeah.
You know, and the gerrymandering of the constituencies to favour Conservatives. You know, to appoint a man who has strangled democracy, who has mocked democracy as a democracy advisor, tells you really who this IDU is, this International Democracy Unit. But as I say, they are a right-of-centre think tank. Actually, a bunch of fascists. Nearly swore there. But it was just so funny to hear somebody appoint a man who's been undermining democracy in the UK for years.
But you could
democracy advisor. You couldn't make it up.
Yeah, but you could see on the comments that went after on the actual article online The people weren't getting it. They were going, well, they must have really low standards to appoint Johnson. They're just missing the point, which is they've appointed him as a democracy advisor, not to build a better democracy, but to actually teach politicians and all the rest of it how to destroy a democracy, because that's what he's good at. End of.
Troll alert. That's right. Just don't feed the trolls. They're welcome here. They might learn something.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Labour implodes over Gaza conflict. Brilliant, eh? Yeah. I mean, how to lose a Muslim vote in one fucking go, the idiot.
Exactly. There is one piece of advice that I need to give people here. If you haven't seen it, look, I know it's over an hour and a half long, but if you haven't seen it, for goodness sake, find the Labour files and watch it, because that tells you everything you need to know. When David Lammy is sweating in front of an interviewer, and he doesn't want to say anything against the Israeli government, the reason is because if he does, that will be counted by the Parliamentary Labour Party as anti-Semitic, and he will be removed from the Parliamentary Labour Party. And that goes for any other of the politicians involved. You get them in front of an interviewer that's going to go after them, it's going to say, what do you think about what's going on in Gaza, right? They will sweat hard and try not to say anything that's out of line.
Anyways, we know Labour councillors down that road have resigned for the party, and he's probably lost an awful lot. He'll lose an awful lot more by his outright support for the siege of Gaza. Now, we'll go on to Gaza in a minute, but it's also caused a stooshy up here. A real stooshy up here. And 9 members of the Kelvin side a Labour Party, a Glasgow Kelvin Labour Party, have resigned, including a Labour peer. Right, and this is because they put forward a motion to the Labour Party to demand a cessation of aggression in Gaza. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, the reply for the central office was this. Where are we? In the press release, what was the reply? The Labour Party said that they were taking no motions on Gaza whatsoever, and the constituent Labour parties should not debate or discuss the situation between Israel and Gaza altogether. So
now this policy, David, this policy that Labour have put in place for the Parliamentary Labour Party was brought about because of the Jeremy Corbyn thing.
That's right.
Right?
Aye.
And Labour have got a large group which is tied to the Israeli government, and it was them that pushed through, with the help of Sir Keir, what's his face, right? To push this through in order to actually push Corbyn out.
Aye.
And now the whole thing has come to roost because of what's happened now. The Labour Party never expected something like this to happen in the future. Now they're stuck with it.
Anyway, the 9 people that resigned, we'll get their names in a minute. As I say, it's the Glasgow Kelvin branch. They said the statement for the General Secretary and the Scottish Secretary, right? We have been informed by the General Secretary and the Scottish General Secretary that any motions related to the situation in Israel and Gaza are out of order for all CLPs. And the reply to these 9 people was, it seems preposterous to us that local political parties cannot have a substantial discussion on contemporary events which are commanding the attention of the entire world. Anyway, the 9 people who resigned are Jim McKechnie, Jennifer Young, Kim Bonner, Peter Duffy, Baroness Pauline Bryan, Vince Mill, Dermot Keller, Agnes Tomney, and David Conley. And they're expecting a lot more people to walk away. Now, up here, David, as you know, Sarwar's no happy, but you've been told to shut his mouth. He's not happy with Starmer's unequivocal backing of Israel in this situation.
But Sarwar will just do as he's told, like a wee puppy, right? Right, sit. And Starmer, I'll just tell Sarwar, look, you don't allow anybody to blooming mention the word Israel, even never mind think about it, right?
But when you go, remember, that's the General Secretary of the Labour Party and the Scottish General Secretary of the Labour Party put out edicts telling the constituencies of the Labour Party branches that they can't discuss this and they've not put motions forward on it.
The thing is, though, what they want, what they need somebody to do is send them a copy of the blooming Labour files from Al Jazeera and let them watch the thing end to end, and then the penny will drop. They'll realise why it is that the Parliamentary Labour Party are telling them to keep their trap shut.
And I'll tell you what, people here in the Jewish community and the Muslim community have come together on this one to condemn the actions that are going on.
Yeah. Yes.
Unequivocally condemn what's going on. And you've got Starmer in hiding.
Yeah.
He hasn't had a good week, but he came to light this week with Poverty Pie, who promised 3 years ago to bring his workers' wages up to the living wage. Still hasn't done it.
Yeah.
You know, that's why he's called Poverty Pie. He won't pay his workers a decent wage. Anyway.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one. Is that protesters at the court at The Hague, now this falls into the Labour Party thing, right? Demanded that the International Criminal Court would take action against the genocide in Gaza. Right?
No, it's Muslims and Jews that are making that case together.
There's one further thing I've got to give you, and this is from Al Jazeera that I do watch, right? And I actually saw video footage of this. Also, Jewish groups have occupied. Do you remember the groups that occupy Capitol Hill?
Aye.
When Trump gave the order, right, go get them, right? Okay. Well, it's the Jewish groups have occupied Capitol offices in Washington, demanding a ceasefire. Now, so I've got to say, why would they do that when Biden was there yesterday, giving his geriatric response, right? He had a blooming flotilla behind him with the biggest aircraft carrier in the world, parked just 12 miles off the waters, right?
That's a hold back to Arab states. But
and he could have demanded, with that amount of firepower behind him, he could have said, ceasefire, stop. Right? And he didn't. Anyway, sorry, we're maybe getting ahead of ourselves.
What's interesting is Stephen Flynn and Humza Yousaf have been seen as the grown-ups in the room here in the UK politics when it comes to this situation. Right. Sarwar thinks he is I can't read that for you. Can you read that, David?
Starmer's been kicked out of the Human Rights Lawyer Club because of his support of Israel and his comments.
Oh, has he?
Would you look at it?
No, I'm looking at the super chat here. Sarwar thinks he's Archie or Archie. But he's only Archie's dog.
All I can say is Arvid Archie.
Right. But what's interesting is Starmer has just coming up in the election. He's just absolutely isolated the Muslim vote here.
Yeah. Thanks, Alexis. By the way,
and an awful lot of the Orthodox Jewish vote as well.
Yeah.
Because when you get right down here, the Orthodox Jews stand against what the Israeli government's doing.
Correct. Actually, on my timeline, there is a gentleman. He sat with 3 other gentlemen, and he's explaining what it is that the Israeli government have done. They've actually taken the symbols and all the rest of it for all the normal Jews in the world and used it for themselves for their own political end, and that's wrong. And he's saying that that's wrong. I do advise you search it out and look at it. And the chap's just being reasonable. He's just trying to be reasonable. It's like,
and then of course,
the reason I can put up with a lot of this stuff with impunity is because I'm a Christian, and I do accept that Jews are God's people, God's chosen people. So why on earth would I be anti-Semitic towards any of them? There's no reason to that. So therefore, Do search this out and see what these
I'm not
gentlemen.
interested in the religious side. I'm interested in the atrocities. I mean,
David,
move on to that bloody hospital that's just been blown up.
But you have to understand that the Jewish people are all held with one religion, right? So no matter where they are in the world, right? So therefore, we've got to give due regard to that. But they're not saying what the Israeli government are saying. In actual fact, quite a lot of them are standing against the Israeli government.
And the Labour files, you will get you'll get on Al Jazeera's website. Just go to their website, YouTube channel.
Millie, if you're one of my friends on Facebook, if you go into my timeline, David Milligan, the timeline, you'll be able to go down, and all these things are recent. They're within, I would say, the last 5 or 6 days. Go down, have a gander, and you'll find them. All right.
But if you go to Al Jazeera's YouTube channel and go into videos, you'll find the Labour files there quite prominently.
Yeah.
And if you're on YouTube watching this show, Millie, I'm sure you know how to navigate it.
But the Labour files, yet again, is on my timeline. So it's whatever you find easier. Okay. Right.
Red Scotland's asking you if you actually think that the creator favoured something else, won people over other people that he created. Listen, it's not a debate we want to have, because we talk about politics here and current affairs. We don't talk about religion or football very often.
If you want to go for a pint, I'll have a debate with you over I was pushed the other day there about the book of Amos in the Bible, and it says that all the judgments that God made about Israel being formed and the Jews being there and all the rest of it, right? And I just said to the guy that put it up, I said, Amos is also part of the judgment that God has made, that looks at all these moves that have been made by the Jewish people that are wrong. So therefore, have a bit of a look at it and see what's wrong. Okay.
Give yourself a fucking delve into doing the rabbit hole and just stay away from the whole fucking lot. That's my advice. Right, I'm an atheist. But that doesn't you and I if we haven't.
We're all made in God's image, darling. All right, simple as that.
Hey,
okay.
I hope not. But if we're all made in God's image, you must be one ugly bastard. That's for sure.
I just, you're deaf here. Don't worry about it. All right.
Right, we're out of time, David. I mean, there's no much more we can say to part of the Israeli-Palestine situation, because the only adults in the room have been Stephen Flint and Humza Yousaf. And Stephen Flint called on the Westminster Parliament to be calling for a cessation of action.
The ugliness that we've seen in Gaza is proceeding. The agreement that was made with Biden is that they would allow 20 container trucks to drive through into Gaza. And I thought, well, fine, that's a start. Expecting it to be straight away. I found out it's not going to happen until tomorrow.
Hold on, I was looking for a post there.
How utterly cruel can you get? How utterly cruel can you get?
Lorna, you're absolutely right. The Gaels are supposed to be the lost 12th tribe of Israel. You're absolutely correct. But
so you will move.
There's a million different tribes in the world, a million different people in the world claiming the same thing.
I assure you, some of my family, yours as well, will have been kicked out of Scotland through the Highland clearances. Well, I tell you what, it's like I keep looking at down at the borders and think, so a wee bit of that must be mine. Do you think I'm going to go to the trouble of living kicking somebody off their land because I had family way back when that owned a wee bit of land, or had land round about there? No, that would be cruel. That would be insane.
Hey, Quentin, I think we'll need to mark this one in the calendar, mate. You and I agree with two things in the one fucking day. Hey, come on, me to buy you a coffee or a pint next time I see you, Quentin.
Let's do the wind up. Okay.
Let's do the wind up. I'd like to thank everybody today. They've 250 people watching live right now, fantastic. And I want to thank everybody today for your kind donations to the Food Bank Fund, whether it be through the bank account or whether it be through a super chat. The money will get out there as soon as possible. We'll get 3 or 4 people waiting to get back. And we're waiting for 3 or 4 people to get back. And it's very difficult to deal your stuff away. I think they actually want us to show up with cash and do the poverty porn thing.
We tend not to give money to Trussell Trust food banks. We're looking for the ones that are not so well supported. But, you know, like the one that I phoned up the other day there, Kintyre and Hamilton, it's like the person I spoke to isn't in charge of the bank account and all the rest of it. All I wanted was the bank account sort code so I can get them paid. It could be Friday, it could be Monday before I hear from that person or from the person in charge. So that's how difficult it can be to actually get the money out.
But,
so,
why round up now? Mind if you're on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, hit the like button, folks. Nice wee rant from me today, and also you've done all right. Now, there was something else I was going to say. Thanks,
Dylan, thank you very much. Thank you. Right in under the wire. Hey.
Under the wire, we'll stick that one up. So, and if you're on Facebook, and of course, please share it across your social media platforms, will you? And we'll be back on Monday at 2 o'clock to do it all again.
Yep.
So we hope you enjoyed the show, folks. We hope you found it entertaining.
White Inch Community Centre Food Bank Despair. Rosalind, I'll have a look at that now when we get off air. All right. So Rosalind, can you put up that one, please? Rosalind Irvin, David. You might have to see it. It's just gone off the bottom of the screen, so you need to scroll down.
David, you're going to have to. I can't put it up because I can't see it. There it's there.
All right. Hang on. Yeah, hang on. Just hold it. I'm just going to quickly.
White Inch Community Centre Food Bank.
Yeah, just as an aid memoir, I just need to take a quick picture.
Get your age, you've got to do that sort of thing, David.
Oh, shut up.
Right, share that across your social media, guys, please. Oh, there, a big one just come into the end from Mr. E.
Oh, bloody hell.
Keep doing what you're doing, guys. Always respected, always enjoyed. Thank you, Mr. E. That's very nice of you. And a 30 that's very generous as well, guys. Yep. It really is. So, all that's left to see, David, is really bye, Davey.
Bye, Davey. Bye, guys.
Happy birthday, Thomas, and we'll see you on Monday, 2 o'clock. Don't be late. Viewing figures are fantastic, folks. Bye for now.